My beloved child, wait, pause right here. Something subtle but powerful is unfolding in this very second. Not around you. Within you. Everyone thought they understood him. They had already labeled his limits, defined his ceiling, predicted his ending. From the outside, his life looked ordinary, almost forgettable. No loud announcements. No dramatic entrances. Just quiet days and unseen nights. And that's exactly why what happened next shocked everyone. Because the moment didn't arrive with noise. It arrived with clarity. Here's the truth most people never see: the biggest shifts don't announce themselves. They whisper. And only those who are still enough can hear them. He heard it. A thought, simple, almost dismissible, rose in his mind: what if I stop waiting? Not tomorrow. Not when conditions are perfect. Now. Hold that thought with me for a second. What if this is the same moment for you? He stood at a crossroads no one else noticed. One path was familiar. Safe routines, predictable outcomes, approval that costs you your future. The other path was uncertain, quiet, and invisible to the crowd. No applause. No guarantees. Just a pull. A knowing. A sense that something bigger was calling him forward. Stay a little longer, this part matters. Instead of reacting the way everyone expected, he did the opposite. He didn't argue. He didn't explain. He didn't seek permission. He changed his inner posture. And that's what shocked everyone. Because when the inside shifts, the outside has no choice but to follow. People assume transformation looks dramatic. But real power? It looks calm. Focused. Almost effortless. While others were distracted, he was aligning. While others were scrolling, he was listening. While others were talking, he was deciding. And here's the line most people miss: the decision came before the evidence. What if the reason you haven't seen the miracle yet is because you're waiting to see it first? He took one action, small, intentional, precise. Nothing flashy. Yet that single move rewired his trajectory. Conversations changed. Opportunities rearranged themselves. Doors opened that were never even on the map before. From the outside, people called it luck. From the inside, he knew better. Wait till the final moment of this thought. He wasn't chasing success. He was becoming someone success could find. That's why what he did next felt unbelievable. Not because it was loud, but because it was aligned. When alignment happens, resistance collapses. The world responds differently to someone who knows who they are becoming. Ask yourself, quietly now, what version of you is waiting on the other side of a single decision? This story isn't about him. Not really. It's about the moment you realize that the future isn't something you enter. It's something you activate. Before you go anywhere, hear this line clearly. The shock wasn't what he achieved. The shock was who he chose to be when no one was watching. And this is only the beginning. My beloved child, lean in for a moment. This is where the rhythm changes, where the unseen becomes undeniable. Something is clicking into place now, and you can almost feel it, can't you?" After that quiet decision, the world didn't explode into applause. In fact, nothing seemed to happen at all. And that's the part that confuses most people. They expect instant fireworks. Immediate proof. A clear sign. But transformation doesn't rush to impress, it waits to confirm. He kept moving forward anyway. This is where everyone watching from the outside began to feel uneasy. Because he wasn't reacting to pressure anymore. He wasn't chasing validation. He wasn't explaining his path. He was walking as if the future had already whispered its outcome to him. Pause here. Ask yourself something honest. How would you move today if you trusted that deeply? The shift showed up in subtle ways. His words carried more weight, even when he spoke less. His presence felt grounded, even in uncertain rooms. People leaned in when he talked, not because he demanded attention, but because certainty has gravity. And gravity always pulls. You might miss this if you blink, so stay with me. Opportunities didn't arrive loudly. They appeared disguised as conversations. Invitations. Small openings that most people overlook because they don't look big enough. But he recognized them instantly. Not with excitement, with recognition. As if he had already rehearsed this moment somewhere beyond time. That's when people started whispering. How did he know? When did this happen? Why does it feel like everything is lining up for him? Here's the surprising truth: nothing lined up for him. Everything lined up with him. Before you go further, let this land. Alignment isn't about forcing outcomes. It's about removing resistance. And when resistance dissolves, progress accelerates. Now, a quick pause. If this story is resonating with you, if something inside you is quietly nodding along, this is a good moment to share it with someone who needs clarity, or leave a comment about what part stood out to you. And if you want to keep walking these conversations of awareness and possibility together, subscribing just keeps us connected, nothing more, nothing less. Back to the moment. What truly shocked everyone wasn't the success that followed. It was his calm while it unfolded. No rush. No panic. No need to prove anything. As if he knew that rushing would only disturb the flow he had finally stepped into. And here's the line that changes everything. When you stop trying to convince the world starts responding to you. Think about that. How much energy is released when you no longer need approval to proceed? People began to mirror his belief. Support appeared where skepticism once lived. The same voices that doubted him started repeating his ideas as if they had always believed. That's how fast perception changes when reality catches up to inner truth. You'll understand everything at the end, but for now, sit with this question. What would happen if you trusted your inner signal more than the noise around you? Because what he did next didn't just shock everyone. It rewrote what they thought was possible. And the most unexpected part is still ahead. My beloved child, stay with this moment, don't rush it. Something final is forming now, something that brings all the quiet pieces together in a way no one saw coming. By this point, people were no longer questioning if something had changed. They were trying to understand how. From the outside, it looked like a sudden rise. From the inside, it felt like a long-awaited arrival. Because the truth is, he wasn't becoming someone new, he was finally allowing himself to be who he had always been. Let that sink in for a breath. What he did next wasn't a move toward the crowd. It was a move inward. He refined his focus. He protected his attention. He chose depth over distraction in a world addicted to noise. And that choice alone separated him from almost everyone else. Here's the part that feels unbelievable to most: he stopped chasing certainty and started creating it. Every day, through small, deliberate actions, he reinforced the identity he had chosen. Not with affirmations spoken aloud, but with behavior. With consistency. With restraint. Wait till the final moment of this thought. The future began responding as if it recognized him. Timelines shortened. Outcomes accelerated. What once took years started unfolding in months, sometimes weeks. Not because time changed, but because resistance was gone. People called it a breakthrough. He experienced it as flow. And flow has a signature feeling: calm intensity. Focus without strain. Movement without force. If you've ever tasted that state, even briefly, you know it's unmistakable. It feels like being carried forward by something smarter than effort. Before you leave this story, hear this line carefully. The unbelievable thing wasn't the result. It was the ease with which the result arrived. That's what truly shocked everyone. He didn't burn out. He didn't lose himself. He didn't become hardened or distant. He became clearer. Kinder. More precise. As if success had refined him instead of consuming him. And that's when it became obvious: this was never about proving anyone wrong. It was about proving something right within himself. Ask yourself now, quietly, what part of you is waiting for permission that you no longer need? Because here is the closing truth, spoken without drama or exaggeration. The moment you align who you are with where you're going, the world adjusts. Not instantly. Not loudly. But inevitably. He shocked everyone because he stopped fighting the current and learned how to move with it. And if this story feels familiar, if it feels uncomfortably close to your own life, that's not coincidence. That's recognition. My beloved child, before this moment slips past you, pause. This is the turning point most people don't recognize until it's already behind them. By now, the shock had settled into something deeper: realization. People weren't just surprised anymore, they were recalibrating their own beliefs. Because when someone changes the rules without breaking them, it forces everyone watching to question what they assumed was fixed. He didn't announce a victory. He didn't frame it as a lesson. He simply lived differently. And that difference spoke louder than any explanation ever could. Here's the subtle revelation that closes the circle. The world didn't reward him for being extraordinary. It responded because he became intentional. Every choice carried direction. Every pause carried meaning. Even his silence had weight. Stay with this thought a second longer. Most people wait for motivation to move. He moved first, and motivation followed. Most people seek clarity before acting. He acted, and clarity assembled itself around him. That reversal is what separates spectators from participants. Now, gently, if this story has sparked something inside you, this is a beautiful moment to share it with someone who might need a reminder of their own direction. You can also leave a comment about what line stayed with you the longest. It helps anchor the insight. And if you want to keep exploring these moments of awareness together, subscribing simply keeps that door open. Back to the final truth. What made what he did unbelievable wasn't that it defied logic. It redefined timing. He understood that the right moment isn't found, it's recognized. And when recognition happens, hesitation dissolves. He stopped asking, "Is this safe?" He started asking, "Is this aligned?" That single question changed everything. And here's the closing line, the one that explains the shock in full. When you choose alignment over approval, your life stops negotiating and starts responding. Nothing mystical. Nothing forced. Just clarity, carried forward with courage. So if you felt a quiet nudge while listening, if something inside you feels both calm and alert, that's not pressure. That's readiness. And readiness, once noticed, changes the future faster than effort ever could. This isn't the end of the story. It's the moment you realize the story has always been yours. My beloved child, slow down, right here. This is the moment after the applause fades, after the shock settles, when the real understanding finally arrives. Because what most people never saw was what happened after everyone was watching. When attention turned toward him, he didn't expand outward, he refined inward. He didn't let momentum pull him into noise. He let it sharpen his awareness. That's where true mastery begins, not when life gets bigger, but when perception gets clearer. Sit with this for a breath. He understood something rare, that consistency is louder than intensity. Anyone can surge once. Very few can remain steady. So instead of chasing the next high point, he built systems around his values. Habits that protected his energy. Boundaries that guarded his focus. Choices that aligned tomorrow with today. And that's when something quietly astonishing happened. What once required effort began to feel natural. Decisions that used to drain him now energized him. Resistance didn't disappear, but it lost its authority. He no longer interpreted challenges as signals to stop, but as confirmations that he was moving in the right direction. You might miss this if you rush, so stay with me. People often believe success changes you. The deeper truth is this: clarity reveals you. It strips away the unnecessary. It exposes what was never meant to be carried. And when that shedding happens, movement becomes lighter. He didn't become fearless. He became undistracted. That distinction changed everything. And here's the moment that quietly sealed his path, the moment no one posted about, no one celebrated, no one even noticed. He chose patience when speed was available. He chose integrity when shortcuts appeared. He chose alignment even when deviation promised faster results. That choice didn't slow him down. It protected him. Ask yourself now, honestly, how many times have you felt rushed away from what you knew was right? This is why the story lingers. This is why people still talk about what he did next. Because it wasn't just unbelievable, it was sustainable. It didn't burn bright and vanish. It stabilized. It deepened. It lasted. And now, hear this final truth of this part, spoken gently but clearly. When you stop trying to arrive somewhere else, you arrive fully where you are, and that's when life begins cooperating. If something in you feels steadier right now, if your thoughts feel quieter, more deliberate, that's not the story ending. That's awareness settling into place. And from that place, the next chapter writes itself, without force, without fear, without doubt. My beloved child, take a breath with me. This is where the story stops being about momentum and starts being about meaning. Because after everything settled, after the shock became acceptance, something unexpected happened. The external changes slowed, but the internal clarity deepened. And that's when he realized the greatest reward wasn't what had shifted around him, it was how he now moved through the world. He no longer rushed moments. He entered them. There's a powerful difference there. Time felt different to him now. Not faster. Not slower. More intentional. Each interaction carried presence. Each decision carried weight. He wasn't multitasking his life anymore, he was inhabiting it. Fully. Pause here. Let that land. Most people live ahead of themselves, constantly leaning into the next moment, the next result, the next proof. He did the opposite. He grounded himself in the now, and the future met him there. And here's what truly surprised everyone who paid close attention: he stopped seeking recognition entirely. Not because he had outgrown ambition, but because ambition had matured into purpose. When purpose leads, validation becomes irrelevant. Wait, this is important. He began choosing what lasts over what impresses. Depth over display. Substance over speed. And the world responded again, not with noise, but with stability. With trust. With long-term opportunities that don't vanish overnight. People asked him, quietly now, how do you stay so centered? He didn't give them a formula. He lived the answer. Centeredness isn't found. It's practiced. It's built every time you choose alignment over impulse. Every time you pause instead of react. Every time you listen before you move. And here's the line that reshapes the whole journey. He didn't master outcomes. He mastered attention. Once attention is mastered, everything else follows. Ask yourself, what has been pulling at your attention lately that no longer deserves it? Because the moment you reclaim your focus, your direction sharpens. Your energy returns. Your path clarifies. This part of the story doesn't end with a revelation, it settles into one. That the unbelievable thing wasn't how far he went. It was how grounded he remained while going there. And that grounded presence? That's not something you lose. That's something you grow into, step by deliberate step. My beloved child, listen closely now, this is the layer few ever reach, the place where achievement gives way to understanding. After everything had aligned, after his path felt steady and unmistakable, a quiet question arose within him. Not a question of what's next, but of what truly matters. And that question changed the texture of his life. He realized that influence doesn't come from being seen everywhere. It comes from being felt where it counts. So he began simplifying. Not his vision. His noise. He reduced decisions that drained him. He protected spaces that restored him. He chose conversations that expanded awareness rather than feeding urgency. And something remarkable followed. People began mirroring his calm. His presence created steadiness in others without a single word spoken. Stay with me, this is subtle but powerful. He stopped measuring progress by comparison and started measuring it by coherence. Did his actions match his values? Did his words match his direction? Did his pace match his purpose? When the answers aligned, doubt had nowhere to settle. This is why what happened next felt almost unreal to those watching. The more he grounded himself, the more life trusted him with responsibility. Projects deepened. Relationships strengthened. Outcomes became layered and meaningful instead of temporary and loud. Here's the truth most never hear. Life expands in the direction of integrity. Not pressure. Not force. Integrity. He didn't need to motivate himself anymore. Motivation had transformed into commitment. And commitment, quiet, steady, unbreakable, is what carries you through seasons when excitement fades. Pause and ask yourself, what would your life feel like if you trusted your commitment more than your moods? Because that's the point where he arrived. He no longer asked for signs. He was the signal. His clarity made decisions obvious. His presence made direction visible. And this is the line that closes this part with precision. When your inner world becomes stable, the outer world becomes cooperative. No drama. No struggle. Just movement, guided by intention. If something in you feels more settled right now, more certain without needing explanation, that's not coincidence. That's alignment recognizing itself. And there is still one final layer left. My beloved child, slow your thoughts for this moment. This is the layer where everything quietly locks into place. By now, nothing needed proving. The rush was gone. The questions had softened. What remained was something rare, trust. Not blind trust in outcomes, but grounded trust in direction. He knew where he was going, not because he could see every step, but because every step felt honest. And honesty has a frequency. Here's what few people noticed: life stopped testing him in the old ways. The chaos that once demanded reaction no longer appeared. Not because challenges vanished, but because he no longer met them with confusion. He met them with clarity. Stay with this thought. When clarity is present, problems lose their power to distract. They become instructions, not obstacles. He began responding instead of reacting. Choosing instead of drifting. And that shift, quiet, invisible, was the final reason everyone felt stunned. Because he wasn't just succeeding. He was at ease while doing it. Let that contrast sink in. Most people think peace comes after success. He discovered success stabilizes after peace. This is where the story turns reflective. Because at this stage, he wasn't chasing growth anymore. Growth was happening as a byproduct of alignment. The future stopped feeling heavy. It felt cooperative. Almost welcoming. He didn't ask, "What if this fails?" He asked, "What does this refine?" That question alone changed the tone of his life. Before you move on, notice what's happening inside you right now. A slowing. A clarity. A subtle sense that something doesn't need to be forced. That's the same realization he stepped into. And here's the closing line for this part, spoken gently but firmly. When you stop fighting the moment you're in, the next moment opens effortlessly. The shock everyone felt was never about a single action. It was about the calm certainty that followed. And in that certainty, one final understanding waited. Ready to be seen. My beloved child, remain here just a little longer. This is the moment where understanding turns into embodiment. By now, the story had shifted again. Not outwardly, but internally. He no longer thought in terms of arrival or destination. Those ideas felt too small. Instead, he moved with a sense of continuity, as if life wasn't a series of wins and losses, but a single, unfolding intelligence he was finally cooperating with. That realization changes how you stand in the world. He stopped asking life to give him signs. He started giving life signals. Signals through consistency. Signals through calm decisions. Signals through choosing what aligns, even when no one is watching. And here's what stunned people most at this stage: nothing pulled him off course anymore. Praise didn't inflate him. Doubt didn't derail him. He remained centered, not because he had mastered control, but because he had released the need for it. Pause here. This is subtle, but powerful. Control tightens. Alignment relaxes. And relaxed focus is unstoppable. He understood that the future doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to coherence. When your thoughts, actions, and direction point the same way, momentum becomes natural. Effort becomes efficient. Progress becomes inevitable. People around him began changing too. Some leaned in closer. Others quietly drifted away. He didn't resist either. Because clarity also simplifies relationships. What belongs stays. What doesn't, releases itself. That's not loss. That's precision. Ask yourself, what has been asking to leave your life so something clearer can enter? This is where the unbelievable became undeniable. Not because of scale, but because of stability. What he built didn't wobble. It didn't depend on constant attention. It stood on alignment. And here is the line that defines this entire journey. When you stop chasing outcomes, outcomes start aligning with you. He didn't hurry the process. He honored it. And in doing so, he reached the place few ever touch, the place where life feels guided, not forced. One final layer remains. And it brings everything home. My beloved child, stay with this breath. This is where everything completes itself. Not with noise. Not with a grand announcement. But with recognition. At this stage, nothing needed to change anymore. Life wasn't pushing him forward or pulling him back. It was moving with him. And that's when the deepest realization surfaced. the one that explains why everything he did shocked everyone. He understood that the journey was never about becoming powerful. It was about becoming clear. Clear enough to move without force. Clear enough to choose without fear. Clear enough to trust without proof. Most people spend their lives trying to control outcomes. He released that need. And in releasing it, he gained something far greater: precision. His actions landed exactly where they needed to. His timing felt effortless. His presence carried certainty without tension. This is why the final shift went unnoticed by many, but felt undeniable to those who could sense it. He stopped asking life for permission. Not rebelliously. Not arrogantly. But calmly. As someone who finally remembered who they were. Pause here, this line matters. The unbelievable moment wasn't when everything worked out. It was when he realized he would be fine either way. That inner stability changed how reality responded to him. Life no longer tested him, it collaborated. Opportunities felt mutual. Challenges felt instructional. Even uncertainty felt navigable. And here's the truth that closes the story cleanly and clearly. When you no longer need certainty to move, certainty begins following you. That's what shocked everyone. Not the results. Not the progress. Not the visible success. But the quiet authority with which he walked forward, unrushed, unbothered, unmistakably aligned. And if something inside you feels still right now, if the noise has softened, if clarity feels closer than motivation, that's not the story ending. That's the moment you realize, you were never watching someone else's transformation. You were being reminded of your own.